Next up is Moonstone. Personally, I really like Moonstone, however, a lot of times she gets overshadowed. For example, I am very surprised that she was not a villain in the first Captain Marvel movie, and she's not even going to be a villain in the second one either. Which, like I said, is very surprising because in the comics, she's typically known as Captain Marvel's biggest villain. However, she's always just there to fill the room as another villain to include in shots of a group of villains. But in my opinion, she could be so much more. Her power set, that being similar to Captain Marvel, makes her pretty powerful. Also, the character's history of Captain Marvel, of even trying to take up the mantle of Ms. Marvel at one point, also makes her very interesting in my opinion, and makes her come across more or less intoned with Captain Marvel, kind of like an evil version of her. Which, of course, one can argue that there's too many of those, that there's always the evil version of the main hero, and maybe you're right. But they could do more of Moonstone. For example, even the zombie comics I thought did a very good job of Moonstone being one of the survivors. Which, even though she did eventually get killed after betraying her team, I was still happy to see her there because I really like her. I also love her on the Thunderbolts, and I love her connection with Ghost. Or maybe you could make her into kind of like an anti-hero. She has had some heroic traits at certain points in her history, but for the most part has stayed a villain. And personally, I would prefer her be a villain, but I guess if we at least have to have her as an anti-hero, I would much rather at least have her as an anti-hero than not have her at all.